It's not our material history that matters, it's our spiritual development that matters. Mind and love and life and principle and spirit and soul and truth. My father was Edward Bradley Cosgrove, and he was born and lived in Sueur. Grandfather offered my father 3 possibilities for a business to go into. One was to get into the plumbing business, one was to get into the hardware business, and one was if Grandpa would buy out the other owners in a cooperative canning factory that was there in Sueur. And my father chose the last. He met my mother, who was Louise Strong Cosgrove, who was born and raised in northeast Minneapolis. My mother was very sensitive artistically. She was up on everything and very discriminating in her tastes. When I grew up in Sueur, I was very uncomfortable. I was the richest kid in town. My mother would have breakfast in bed, and then the maid would come up with the daily calendar and she would outline the food for the day, then would be delivered from the local grocery store. This is really funny in a little town, you know, the grocery store is a block and a half away from our house. When I was little, she hired a woman, a Swedish woman. Berg really raised me and lived with us till I was at least 5 years old. Dinner was served in the dining room. My father filled the plates, and Georgia, who was a girl from the farm, would then carry the plates around to the place, even when there were 3 of us at the table. And finally, there were only 3 of us at the table. On a Sunday, after we had Sunday dinner, he would light his cigar, and then if he would say, "I'm going to take my 2 best girls to the movies," and we'd go to the matinee in Sueur, then I thought life was really good. I knew that they were unhappy. I do remember when I was quite little, my mother climbing in bed with me, and she was crying. You know, you don't know what to do or what that's all about when you're little. My brothers were adored older brothers. Arthur was 18 months old when Bob was born. So those 2 boys were always very close. They all went away to high school. Summers, when they would have been at home, my father would frequently farm them out to canning factories in other parts of the state.
Good things from the garden, garden in the valley, valley of the jolly, ho, 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 green giant.
Arthur was very handsome. I thought he was just like Tyrone Power, and loved drama. He was in plays all through high school, and through the part of college he was in college. Then David was absolutely the star of our family. He was in the choir, he was in the plays, he was on the football team, he was a captain. When I was in 8th grade, we moved to 510 Groveland. I had a horse, and I had kept my horse in a place out near Fort Snelling. I was on my way out there when I heard the whole thing about Pearl Harbor. And you knew that what it would mean. It sort of sank in gradually. January was when my father divorced my mother. Bob and Art were both stationed in Europe. They had gotten together, Art and Bob had seen each other. They'd arranged to get together. And 2 weeks later was when Art was killed. He was walking to say goodnight to some of the people in his troop, and a bomb went off and the shrapnel went in his chest, and he lived for a day. My brother David was killed the next spring. We were in Chicago on spring break. For some reason, I had been with friends, been at some soda fountain place, and I came home and there was a woman with my mother. I don't know who she was, but that's when I heard about David. And I had to go into the hotel stairway to be alone for that somehow. When my brother Art was killed, a Sunday school teacher I'd had wrote me a letter which just meant so much to me, and I've quoted to other people. She said, if you believe in life everlasting, you cannot say that your mourning now is for your brother, because his life is continuing. I wanted to wait 3 years before I got pregnant. Three little girls then. I dressed them all alike, you know, they were so cute and we were so kind of picture perfect. In my mind, it's just like out of the storybooks. When I was a young married, the junior league was the thing to do. The first job I had, I remember, because you worked in the community, was I worked down at Planned Parenthood and I took notes for the doctors. Ultimately, I was head of the clothesline, which was their money maker, and then I was treasurer, and then I was president. But for me, it really was an introduction to the community and then to doing things in the community. Nonviolence is going in there, not only not taking sides, not seeing that there are sides, but simply seeing that all people there want peace ultimately. I feel like so much of what I've done certainly was building up to this. This was a solution to a problem in the world that didn't have to do with a material solution. It's more of a spiritual solution. In Christian Science, we recognize Jesus as a human being who exemplified the Christ understanding, as had Moses and Elisha and Elijah and many people since. But I know more and more I am trying to see everyone I know as a child of God and trying to translate everything in my life from the material picture to the spiritual reality of what's going on. And the spiritual reality is that love is in control always.